Hello students, today we're doing lesson 5.4 on exponential notation. So you have probably seen exponential notation before. Sorry, my screen's going a little wonky. So today we're just going to go through it and talk about some of the wording with exponential notation. And in our next lesson, lesson 5.5, we're kind of going to be putting together some of the prime and composite numbers from the last, and then this one with the exponential notation. Okay, so let's talk about what an exponent is and what some numbers are. So I'm going to write a couple of things out here, and then we're going to talk about what everything means. Okay, so if I had 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. Remember, we don't use the time sign anymore. We use the little dots to mean time. So if I had that, you have probably seen it written like this, right? 2 with the little 4 on top. Okay, so we're going to talk about what all these things are called. So these right here, all of these are called factors, right? We've talked about factors before. Factors are the numbers that when you multiply, it gives you another number. So those are my factors. Over here, this is called an exponent. That little bitty number is called an exponent. And this is our base number. Okay, so you might hear me say these words today, and you need to know if I say like what's the base number, I'm talking about that big number that has an exponent on it, and the exponent is the little number. Now the way you say this whole number right here, this is how you would read it, or how you would say it. You would say 2 to the 4th power. So an exponent is also called a power. Okay, so when we read it, we say 2 to the 4th power. If it was this one, we would say 3 to the 6th power. Okay, we do have 2 that are special and are read differently. And that is if I had 5 to the 2nd power, or if I had 5 to the 3rd power. We don't say 2nd power and 3rd power. Those two are special. We say 5 squared on this one. And on 5 to the 3rd power, we say 5 cubed. And that has to do with, let's say if I drew a square out, this would mean 5 times 5. And 5 times 5 is 5 squared. Okay, so that's why 5 to the 2nd power, so that's why we call it 5 squared. With cubed, it's like if I were doing the volume of a cube, that means all the sides are the same. I'd have the length, the width, the height, all that, 5 times. So that would be 5 times 5 times 5. That gives me 5 cubed, 5 to the 3rd power, which is called 5 cubed. And that is why they call it a cube, is because that's like finding the volume of a cube is 5 times 5 times 5. Okay, so those are just some special words and how to say all the things that we're going to be talking about in this lesson. Okay, this is not a very long lesson. Sorry, I keep moving my screen around. So let's do some examples of what you're going to see in your homework and on worksheets that you will do. Example 1 says, write 6 times 6 times 6. And this one, they did use time signs in exponential form. So I'm just going to put, well, let me write it all out. Exponential, I spelled that wrong. No, I did not. Exponential form. Okay, so to write that in exponential form, this is going to be your base number, right? Is the 6, so that's going to be my big number. And then how many of them I have? 1, 2, 3. The 3 is going to be your top number. So this is an exponential form. Is 6 to the 3rd power, but we say that as 6 cubed. Okay, so I want you to get used to saying it the right way, so we're going to say 6 cubed. Okay, next lesson, we have some special exponents, and those are 1 and 0. Okay, so if I have, and 1 is really just, noticeably, if I had 7 to the first power, that just equals 7. I don't need a 1 on there. It just equals 7. But if I had something to the 0 power, that's going to equal 1, the whole number 1. If I have 8 to the 0 power, that's 1. If I had 12 to the 0 power, that equals 1. So anytime you have to the 0 power equals 1. And we learn more about that. I'm not sure if we learn about it later in this class or if you first learn about it in algebra. But I'm not going to go through how they got that to be 1 right now because y'all don't know all the things that I would be showing you. But just remember that anything to the 0 power equals 1. And you will learn why later on. Okay, now I have some other examples or some other problems. So example 2, we have, it says write the product of repeated factors of these two numbers. So for A, we have 3 to the 4th power. And for B, we have 7 to the 0 power. And I'm going to add a C on here. Let's do 6 to the, let's do 7th power. Okay, so if they want you to write this with repeated factors, remember, factors are the things you multiply. So 3 would be 3 to the 4th power would be 3 times 3 times 3 times 3. That's what they want when they say repeated factors. Okay, but 7 to the 0 doesn't have factors. It's just 1. So you don't leave it blank. You don't rewrite it as 7. The answer is just 1. And then 6 to the 7th means I'm going to write 6 out 7 times. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then I'm going to go back and put my time signs in there. If you use X's for your time signs, that's okay on this part. But I just like to tell students, try to get used to writing them with the dots on them. Okay. So let's do one more thing that you'll be asked to do. And that is if I had 3 squared times 3 cubed. Okay, we want to write this out. So how would we write 3 squared? We would write 3 times 3, right? And how do we write 3 cubed? 3 times 3 times 3. And then we bring down this time sign. And now I'm going to put all of these together. So 3 squared times 3 cubed is going to equal 3 to the 5th power. Okay, because we just counted these. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And however many there are is your exponent. Okay, let's do one more like that. If you had, this is actually example 3 now. If you had 2 to the 3rd power times, or 2 cubed, times 2 to the 4th power, what would that equal? So you can do it like we did it over here and write them all out, or you can figure it out in your head because it's easy enough to do in your head. Okay. See if you can figure out what that is. Okay, so if you wrote down all of them, here's the 3 for here, and then I'm going to write out 4 more for here. So how many do I have all together? I have 2 to the 7th power, and that's my answer. So those are the types of problems that you'll be doing today and finding out the exponential notation of problems.